to, I think it's the ninth in our series of our show, looking back on the days gone by to some extent. Today, we've been asked to talk about marriage and courtship, and maybe to think back on, when we were kids, when we were young adults, what were the expectations we had of the grand and noble institution of marriage, and maybe some reflections on, what it's been about for you since then. So why don't we start by you each giving a short, just who are you, to the people who are watching us. Do you want to start?
I'm Gloria Gerroir from West Ayrshire, born in Petergrade on Sagu Hill. Moved to Ayrshire when I was 8. Lived there till we got married and been in West Ayrshire ever since.
All right, thanks for that.
My name is Leonard Gerroir. I'm from West Ayrshire. My better half, Gloria. I was born in 1947, August 21st. That was the best before date. I've lived in West Ayrshire all my life. I've been an industrial arts teacher, and I'm retired right now.
All right, thank you.
And I'm Phyllis Frost. I was a Ross, the only Ross that's on the island. I lived in St. Mary's until I was probably 18, and I had a couple of states where I was back for a few months until I married at the young age of 21. And I'm back here, it's about a year and a half since I moved back. I'm loving every minute of it.
And you moved from?
From Myra. We spent 38 years in Myra.
Thanks.
Love being back.
Thanks.
And I'm Cameron Frost. I'm the other half of this combination. And I was actually, I wasn't born in Ayrshire, but brought to Ayrshire as a wiggling little infant and was raised here until I was 16 or 17 years old. And then my family moved to Grand Anne's. And not long thereafter, I was off into the world. And somewhere along the line, I found myself a young lady, and we got married, and the rest is, I guess, history.
History. Well, thanks, Cameron.
You're welcome.
So, thinking back on it, I mean, was marriage simply expected of you when you were young? Was it expected? Or was it a kind of miracle when it happened? Like, holy smokes.
I can't say it was expected. I think maybe from myself, but not from like my parents saying, well, you have to get married and stuff. And I always said I was going to get married when I was 21 as a teenager. And I was 2 months from turning 22 when I did get married. But I don't know if it was expected or I'd expected it was going to be just one of the things that happened.
Yeah.
We were dating for quite a while.
How long did you date before you got married?
4 years.
So 4 years, I guess, yeah.
That's a while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it took her a while to make up her mind.
And you said, Leonard, did you guys take a while as
Yeah,
well?
but it took about 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
I was only 17 when I got married.
Oh, that might be a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was 13 when I met him.
You
High
were
school.
13.
High school.
You guys have known each other forever.
Yeah.
How long
Yes.
have you been married?
54
4 years.
years
Oh,
now.
I was
coming
good
up.
guessing 55, I said probably.
And how long have you guys been married?
You asking me, or is this a test?
We'll find out.
We're heading for 46.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you know when you met each other that you were headed towards marriage, or did?
Well, I'm sure we ran into some scuffles along the way where we said, But eventually we ended up, we get up from
Oh,
college.
your ones were running wild.
Yeah, let's address the elephant in the room.
Yeah. So 45, 50 years ago, if you wanted to satisfy your hormonal urges, it was expected that you get married, right?
Oh, yeah.
I
Back
think
in the day,
probably,
it was-
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
My,
of culturally acceptable.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
sex outside of marriage is not a thing.
my religion teachings, it was
Yeah.
expected if you would get married, yes, definitely.
I used to visit him in West Ayrshire, and his mother, his dad had passed away. I never met his dad. she would go to bed around 10:30, and she'd say, "Okay, we're going to bed now."
Yeah, it was
You sleep in the back, and
chaperone all the time. Didn't have a chance.
And did you have that experience? Did you have a sort of hovering chaperone somewhere in that?
Oh, you didn't. No, never. My parents just trusted me, I guess. And I was the oldest, so I had to bring, clarity to the other girls, the other two girls.
Right.
And on top of that, her parents are watching Telile all the time, so we have to be careful.
You don't think you can admit it now?
That's what respect is all about.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, respect, yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as was it expected that you get married back then? I think looking back, like most of the people that I went to school with,
Well, okay.
everybody kind of ended up being married, whether it was a religious thing or whether it was just sort of a cultural expectation. You were kind of assumed that you were going to find somebody, settle down, and be married.
Yeah.
Much more so than today, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way that it seemed to go.
Yeah.
It was. I don't think anybody really questioned it a whole lot. I mean, it was not everybody got married, but for the most part, it was sort of that's just the way things go.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
yes.
And what do you remember? I mean, what did you believe marriage was going to be like?
What were my expectations?
Yeah.
Somebody that I would share everything with.
Right.
Right from the beginning, it was going to be my best friend, it was going to be my lover, my confidant.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I had in mind when I got married, that he was going to be there, everything I want.
Yeah.
And he has been.
Oh, jeez.
Sweet.
So,
I don't know that I had any preconceived notion of what it was. It was something that I was ready to do. I assume. I guess I was ready. I'm still here, so I must have thought about it a lot. But as far as a preconceived notion, I'm not really sure that I sat down and thought about it a lot. Guess I just didn't want her to get away.
Yeah.
I think we went in with the notion that was marriage is whatever you make it.
Mm.
So if you want a successful marriage, you're going to work at it and make it what's good for you. So yeah, it's been good.
anything worth doing is worth doing well.
Well, that's right.
And everything takes work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the nuns
Yeah,
stuff.
But that's one of the.
One of the nuns, and that's interesting.
My mother.
High school.
My mother's favorite saying, anything worth doing is worth doing well.
Well, that's right.
My mother raised me with that saying, and then one day I was so crazy busy, it was insane. And the thought passed through my most liberating thought I ever thunk, which was if something's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. Because it's worth doing, right?
Yeah, it's worth doing, yeah.
But did you get a lot of advice from people with a lot of community support and interest in
those days?
those
No, I
days?
don't think.
I remember. I remember when we first started dating in high school, and he had given me a birthday card, and my parents didn't know that we were dating yet, so I tucked it in one of my books. And my sister found it, and she went running to Mom right away, right? Look what I found. And she said, "Who is Leonard Gerroir?"
Strange guy from Worcester.
I said he's from West Ayrshire. Oh, I can imagine he's not a strange guy if he's from West Ayrshire. And my father, I told you we were born on Sadhu Hill. I said, it can't be any worse than the Sadhus from Petergreen. And my father started laughing.
Well, that must have been a bit of a thing, though, right? To grow up in a small community where everybody knows, and if they don't really know people, they know of them,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
So did you have to sort of think about that when you introduced?
No, as soon as Mom and Dad found out it was AC and Root's son, they were all excited.
Okay.
Because they knew both of them.
But that's what I mean, so they knew him.
They knew
Yeah,
him, they knew him, and
everybody
loved both of them.
definitely knew everybody, and
Yeah,
that's a good thing, I guess, on one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, it can be a bit of a detriment, but it's not like living in Saskatoon or Nanaimo
Toronto or
Toronto,
something, yeah.
City.
where you run into a stranger and you've got to make that connection. I mean, these folks and like us, we already had a bit of an idea of who the other person was and where they came from,
Right on.
et cetera, et cetera.
That's
So
right.
it wasn't a complete stranger, even if we weren't bosom buddies. I kind of knew who she was and
I
where
know
she
who he
came from.
was, it's just about
Yeah.
the lifeguard on the beach.
Oh. So she had been admiring you for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Now, there's the hormones he was talking about.
So when you talk about dating, so what did dating look like? So 4 years, you guys basically dated.
Yeah, 1 year, we were engaged for a year before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
We both moved to, I finished school in '74, we both moved to Halifax, we never lived together. I lived with my cousin, he lived with friends, but dating was still the same as if we had been home.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah. So what did that look like? Like going out for lunch, going bowling, dances?
Yeah, going out meeting up with friends, going out to parties, movies, whatever. Still by ourselves, so.
It was pretty simple because I was at when we first started,
University.
I was a university student, so I had no money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously it wasn't
Coming
very
to see our
elaborate
cousins
Yeah.
and,
things,
yeah.
but we found things to do and went to like parties and things with folks or
Yeah.
concerts and things like that in Halifax at that time.
We really didn't get a lot of time to get home. Because I lived
really.
with Jones, and every time we went, we always had friends with us.
She was working full time. I was at university full time, and it was
Yeah.
Yeah.
busy time of
Is
year.
it time? You guys as well? Were you?
See, I met her at the hangout. Well, the hangout was in the bowling alley.
It was.
Yeah, the old bowling alley and a little restaurant.
Probably
Yeah.
more families engendered there than
But yeah, I know a lot of people who met at the bowling alley.
And the kids were, well, it was a teenage hangout. They were playing tricks. They had bobby pins with elastic bands, and they were shooting them. And she got hit in the leg and started bleeding. And I went to her. I said, "Are you all right?" And this is when we fell in love. At that time, yeah. And after that, we would meet at school, and then I would go to her place and visit her, and she would come to my place and visit. And when I went to university, I would hitchhike from Truro to come and see her. In fact, I'd drop in at home and have a bag full of laundry, and then I'd run to see her. And Mom said, "That's the only reason you come down, for me to do your laundry?"
Well, there was one other reason.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
So now, when you decided to get married, was it done in this sort of Hollywood fashion? Did you pop the question? Leonard? Was this, it was a kind of,
Yeah.
at least in the movies, we see this way in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Hollywood or. But it was,
Yeah.
I did ask. Wasn't rejected.
And here you are.
And here I am,
Yeah.
and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Because God knows where if I would
yeah,
have.
that was
Right?
about the same with us. I asked her, and she accepted, and I was led.
Yeah. But it was expected that it was up to even though you both probably knew what was going to unfold, it was
Yeah, it wasn't-
expected
it
that the
wasn't a big
man was.
surprise.
That
Right.
was a big
Anybody.
surprise, we had discussed it.
Yeah, but it was expected that the man in the partnership was going to ask the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and what about afterwards? What were your expectations about working, for instance? I mean, did you talk about that before you got married?
No.
No.
I went to university. I got a student loan, and as soon as I came out, I had a job already. At that time, you didn't have to look for a job. They called you. In fact, the principal of the school here called me and said, because I was going to go to that third year in university, and he said, "Do you want a job right now?" He said, "I have an opening." After the 2 years I was there at Teachers College, and I said, "Well, if you got a job for me, I'm going to go. It's right at home, So I left there with a student loan, and then proposed marriage. Got married in August. Went to work.
In September?
Yes, and so at the beginning it was a little rough because of the finances. I mean, I had bought a car, got married, had a student loan, and was ready to buy a home. And so it was kind of rough at the very beginning, but we got through it.
Yeah.
Make do.
Yeah, we do.
Do you remember it being rough as well?
But that's what she said. You have to work at it. You have to work at it.
Yeah, he was making $5,000 a year when we got married. That's what he was making. So he'd get his paycheck and we'd have an envelope for the lights and an envelope for the phone and an envelope for groceries and taxes and
Yeah, everybody budgeted.
Budgeted.
Now people don't have a clue what it is.
You had no choice.
No.
But you found yourself doing the same kind of system?
Yes.
Actually, even maybe more so, because I had gone to university for a couple of years, and then I ended up getting a job on a construction site in Rec Cove. They were building a hydroelectric project.
Good money.
Really good money for 2 years, so I said, you know what, okay, I'm gonna go there. But when we got married, Mr. Frost here had gotten laid off at Rec Cove and was on unemployment insurance.
And so was Mrs. Frost. I had worked in Echo too.
So, you know, it didn't really matter that we were not much in the way of prospects, but we we went for it anyway, and it all worked out. You know, worked out. I know, like, you don't want to get into philosophical discussions and stuff like that, but you know, the struggling at the beginning part of it, and working that out together.
yeah.
I think that builds a foundation.
Yes.
And I really feel sometimes now I see a lot of the younger kids. The big stressor is finance. A big stressor, but everybody wants everything now. You know,
It's a
a
gimme-gimme
big
situation.
fancy house, bigger than they're ever going to fill up because who can afford all those kids to start with? You know, new cars, new toys, and you're only young and you're just starting out. I think that's a big stressor. And we had stressors, all right, but like you, we had an envelope for this and an envelope for that, and we worked it out and we got it done.
Yeah.
So.
And you didn't expect to own a big home?
No, our expectations
No,
weren't
no. You bit off what you could chew, maybe a little bit more than you could chew.
Yeah.
You know, we were careful.
And that being said, after I married you, you worked for 2 years at Michelin Tire. Great job there. Decided you wanted to go back to university. And everybody's saying, are you crazy? Leaving a full-time job to go back to university?
Yeah.
I think the only one that supported us was my mother. Yeah, I think it's great. She said, if you're going to do it now, do it before you have children. And so back we go to him going back to university and
We had a
me
home that
working.
we just bought, sold that, had a brand new vehicle that I just bought, sold that, sold everything, went back to university. So
So-
again, you know,
Starting again.
rough,
Starting
rough,
again.
little bit of rough stuff going
Yeah.
on, but again, foundation building.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's,
that makes you stronger.
I compare it to a business. You're in a partnership.
Exactly.
I mean, she looked after the kids. I went to work.
Mm-hmm.
We both worked at it until the kids were old enough to go on their own, and then she started working. So we were both working for the same cause, basically, to make it ends meet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you know, you like you said, you have a nice foundation. It's like building a brick house.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have an old brick that doesn't work. Well, you don't tear down the whole thing down again. You get a new brick. You put one in there, and you build it. And you hate to go back. Once you've started building,
Oh, yes, right.
you know, a good relationship, why do you want to go back to zero? So you try to work it out the best way you can. And then we had difficult times where we didn't speak for days sometimes. We
No
just-
way.
Yes. Oh yes. Yes, for sure.
I can't imagine my wife not speaking for
Speaking.
me.
I knew you were going to say that. And you're right. Even if I was there, I'm still talking.
Well, I suppose given that none of us are perfect, right,
So, yeah.
it's impossible not to have, in
No.
some cases, a long-standing disagreement with somebody, but something important, right, until you work it out.
They weren't that long.
But it's not tearing down the whole house, it's,
No.
Yeah.
we might have to fix the
And
window.
you
here.
come,
You know.
you come to the conclusion that silence is not golden.
Yeah.
No.
You know, if you talk things out, it's gonna work a lot faster.
Yeah, it gets lonely being quiet.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
In my case, as soon as I'm quiet, they ask me what's wrong.
At one point, we wrote to each other because sometimes you say things that you very difficult to
Yeah.
take back.
Yeah.
In anger, when you're
Yep.
upset at the time,
You can't get back.
you can't take it back.
Yeah.
So we would agree that we wouldn't do that. We'll just walk away from it.
Mm.
And then write. Reflect and write.
Ah, okay.
And then we exchange notes, and then we...
Good advice, because you
That is
have to
good
stop and
advice.
think about the words that you put
That's
out.
right.
Always
Yeah.
think
You
of
have
the
to
words
think.
before-
Good advice,
think
like
Yeah.
that one.
And reflect, come back and away from the anger and settle down, and then...
Work it
It's a
out.
whole new day.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I always had the last words. Yes, dear.
Yeah. Hard to go wrong with those.
Now, how much, when children arrived, when you had kids, how much did that change things?
Not a lot, I don't think, because we're both on the same
Well, in
wavelength.
our case, it took us forever to have the first child. I mean, we decided we were gonna wait because, well, university,
Yes.
So we were married, what?
7?
7 years before the first daughter came along.
Almost 7, 6.
So that was, it was quite a joyous occasion in because by that time I had a full-time job, I was teaching and et cetera, et cetera. So I was ready by that time, so it was a joy, it was great, wonderful.
Yeah.
It unfolded as I had hoped it would,
Mhm.
and so, no, it was great.
Yeah. What about for you guys? Did it change things a lot, Gloria, when you had kids?
We had 3 kids by the age of 23.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
And did that, I mean, introducing new people, new stressors into a relationship, I mean, it can be challenging, right?
Oh,
we
yeah,
had
it can be.
good.
But you must remember, when you get married, there's not only the two of you there.
Mm-hmm.
There's the in-laws, there's the uncles,
Yeah.
so you're
Brothers,
marrying
sisters.
into more than
You're
one.
marrying into a family, you're not
Right.
just picking
That's right.
But,
Right.
in this community,
Yeah.
or any
Yeah.
small community, you're
Yeah.
marrying into a family, you're marrying into a community.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you navigate that? I mean, I do remember when I was married, and my parents were wonderfully supportive, as were my in-laws. But I do remember stick handling the advice, especially about infants, right? And trying to keep everything sort of relaxed and productive and supportive when sometimes deep down I was seething, right? I
Yeah.
mean, not a lot, but
Yeah,
occasionally.
Yeah.
so, no.
Or just frustrated, that.
Yeah, there was stresses, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially when we started and we didn't have our own home. We stayed with Mom, and then there was another my brother and his wife. We were all staying together.
So we were like 3
Oh, yeah.
Not so much stressful for me because I was away from the house,
Yeah,
but for her it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be.
So
And
what?
then you get 2 leading ladies or 3 leading ladies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's right. I can see that being a
Too
Well,
many,
just
too many
decision-
cooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Who gets to make decisions,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Then we
Exactly.
moved with my parents, and we had Nigel, the oldest fellow, and of course Mom had brought us up in her way, and I should be doing the same thing that she had been doing.
Right.
So,
Right, and
So
that's
that was
hard.
stress, yeah.
Well, it's hard because
Yeah.
you love your mom. On the other
Yes.
hand, you want to do your own thing.
And Mom's
right?
doing the best because she feels she's got the best
Yeah,
advice, which is
right.
natural, so she's trying to be helpful, but and you see it as being, well, no, it's my child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But
right.
we didn't have any of that. We didn't
No,
have
we
any,
didn't, both
you know,
were grandparents,
Yeah.
yeah.
on both sides. We didn't get a whole lot of advice, or we didn't get a whole lot of that.
Yeah,
No, I have to say we're lucky in that respect.
yeah. And what about you now? You all have children
yeah.
who have children now.
No, we're not grandparents, we only have, we have 2 daughters.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you have grandchildren.
Yes, we have.
So what's your approach to their? I mean, and remember
Raise
you
them
are
any
on
way you
television.
want.
Just keep them out of jail. Yeah, that's it.
Well, things have changed a lot since you guys
Oh,
got
yeah.
hitched.
Yeah.
When you think about simply just the institution of marriage, and what would you say are the most profound changes that you've seen?
Nowadays,
Yeah, or since the time you got married. I mean,
what I find nowadays with the younger couples is that there's no commitment
No commitment and no trust.
and no trust.
Mm.
And like you say, they want want everything and they want it now. So they're going
There's a
into
major
heavy,
stressor.
heavy debts and
Yeah.
they're stressed to the max.
Yeah,
So it doesn't take a whole lot for them to go,
right.
Yeah.
you know, so,
There's a lot of, with the new technology, there's a lot of, the world is wide open now. To, like we were sort of in our little world.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
were in our little world.
Yeah,
But now, I mean, something happens in Japan, you know right away
yeah,
it's happening. You know how people live out there. You know all these things. So it's a different world that the young people are living in now.
Mhm.
Definitely. You know.
well, there's certainly the illusion that you have an awful lot of choices.
Yes.
Whether they're real choices or not, it's another matter.
Yeah, but it looks good from
It
the outside
looks
looking in.
like
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah.
on offer. Yeah, which is, I mean, I think if I had grown up with that, my life would have been a bit different. Or
I think so.
it would have felt different anyway.
Yeah.
With us, we didn't believe in getting into debt too far. You know, we always, like Gloria said, we budgeted as much as we could. Whereas more likely now, it's the credit card, it's, make a loan, line of credit, and it goes on and on and on. And like you said, they want it now, so this is how they get it.
Well, it's so easy.
But
yes.
it's easy,
it's
yeah,
accessible,
it's
yeah.
made easy. Before,
It wasn't.
it was difficult to
Yeah,
get a
lay your
loan
cards on
or a
the table
mortgage
and
or.
My
did it.
first mortgage was 18.5%.
Oh, yeah.
The youngsters now have no idea what that is.
No, that's
Yeah,
right.
you know, so maybe that made us a whole lot more careful about going out
Yeah,
and borrowing
that's
money
right.
because
Yeah.
no, because at 18.5%, that's what I started with, and it hasn't been anywhere near that. But
Yeah.
now 5 or 6, and they think it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
What they do, yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're looking
Well, I
at
remember the
it.
first time I got a mortgage at 5%, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
Well, and
Yes.
and you know what, that has contributed to a lot of
Yeah.
issues, because now it's starting to creep back up.
Yeah.
As I always felt it would, I was always afraid it would, so
Yeah.
I stayed away from it. You're starting to see people starting to panic just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, more pressure on the relationship, more pressure, et cetera, et
That's
cetera,
right.
et cetera.
Stressors.
Stressors that you don't have any control over,
Mm-hmm.
and that's tough.
I remember a lady telling me I got engaged when I was staying there. I was taking a course in Stilton, and I stayed with this lovely couple. And she said to me, Phyllis, I only have one thing to tell you. Well, she said kind of true. She'd never ever fight about money, and don't go to bed mad at each other.
Yeah.
That was her
Yeah.
her wisdom.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
She was married 60-some years at that time.
yeah.
We were married, I think, 3 years, and I used my credit card for the first time. After 3 years, I had a credit card, I was scared to death to use it, but couldn't afford to use it because it was 18.5% mortgage. And I bought her a rocking chair,
Oh,
and I remember the rocking chair cost $75, and I thought, oh my God, I hope.
He didn't want me to know he had bought it. That was the way of me not knowing, because we didn't use the card, right?
Yeah.
And he was gonna pay it off
So that's the
after
way-
I got it.
yeah.
That's how that's the way I was with, and I guess I still am. Like I'm
Yeah.
still very careful
We
about.
never borrowed more than what we needed.
No, we didn't either.
No,
You
no,
only
no.
do what you,
Yeah.
No luxury stuff. It was.
Well, it'll come. It'll come, right?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that stuff will
No,
come.
but then you get yourself into the habit of saving money, or not saving, but being attentive towards money.
Well, then
Yeah.
you gotta be a little careful. You start becoming a bit of a miser.
Well, exactly. Then you have a bit of money. I remember my kids saying to me, "For heaven's sake, Mommy, why don't you just buy that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess lessons are learned early in life are hard to shake. I mean, we're at a point now where we should be a little bit more open up the purse strings a little bit, but lessons
Yeah.
learned earlier are hard
Yeah.
to shake.
They are. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That was funny. I was saying a couple of Christmases ago, of course, both our girls are grown. And like I said, one of our daughters handicapped, so her wishes and stuff are very low. Anyway, come Christmas time, I came out, I don't know what I'm going to buy anybody. I don't know what I'm going to buy you. If you want to have something under the tree. I said, now that we can afford to buy it, there's something we need.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one time you'd have to kind of figure out, well, I'm going to spend this much,
Can I?
Yeah.
Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I have it paid off by
Now
February?
that's not what we want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
December, can I get it out from underneath it by February?
Yeah.
And That was a real question.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause I don't wanna have this going on until next year at Christmas time.
Yeah, I
That's
wanna
true.
make sure I have everything paid for.
Yeah, learning money management is kind of a critical thing. I mean,
I
whether
think
you're
we
married
should
or
have that in
not.
all
but-
That should be,
Yeah.
that should be a part of the
Sit back
curriculum,
forever.
no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been an educator all my life pretty much, and that to me is a big part missing.
Well, I kind of agree with you, Cameron. On the other hand, I think back to my own life, and my father was very good at educating us about money. Like very good, and he was very good at explaining things. You know, I mean, I had an uncle who was an accountant.
Yeah, but
who-
not everybody.
You listened to him, and he was. But the problem was, I wasn't ready to hear the advice, really, until I lived on my own. So the idea of paying rent, I mean, these are all very abstract ideas. It wasn't until I actually had to write a check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that all of a
No, I know
sudden,
what you're talking about.
you know, yeah.
That's what he meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But yeah, so kids, your life changes. Did you? I mean, I mean to ask this not about your particular children, but the notion of being parents, was that kind of part of the idea of getting married when you got married?
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Expected to have a family.
Yeah.
Family.
And in my case, I wasn't ready when I got married, and I verbalized that, and I'm not ready yet.
Right.
And so it took me a while, like 7 years before I said,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm ready.
And I was okay
I
with
don't
that.
know what I was dragging
My
my
kids
feet,
were really
but I
young,
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you knew that and so part of your financial calculations and where you're living or buying a house or not is partly based on this idea that in time you're gonna have
Yes.
kids.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was part of the plan.
Part of the
You
plan.
gotta have a plan.
Yeah. And what about extended family? So we touched on that a little bit, but your relationship with your extended family changes over
I
time.
have an awesome relationship with my extended family, as does Cameron.
Yeah.
I think they take Cameron's part before me.
Yeah, both my parents unfortunately have passed on.
Yeah.
And,
But all his brothers and sisters.
both her parents are still living, so we're talking about like in-laws, I have to talk there. And, pretty good chance, and I hope they're listening, pretty good chance that they're gonna have my side.
And I wouldn't doubt. No, they treat him like a son, they did, all along.
Was that your experience, Gloria? That like when you get married, you're not just marrying an individual,
You're
but
marrying two
you're
families.
marrying into and the implications of that may not dawn on you completely, until the years unfold.
Yeah.
But you really are hitching yourself to another family.
You are, yeah. And we got along well. I got along
Oh,
well
yeah.
with his brothers and
Yeah,
sisters.
both our parents are passed away,
yeah.
but I was extremely well treated at your place. Cyril would always say, father-in-law, is Leonard coming for dinner? At one time, and he had a sense of humor because at one time I was working at the IGA, packing groceries there, and I would take a lunch, and he would say, "Don't take a lunch," he says. We're not far. Just walk down to the house, and we'll give you dinner. So one day, I got busy with stuff at the store, and I was late for dinner. And Lucille had cooked fish for dinner. And she said to Cyril, she says, "Well, I guess he's not coming for dinner. I'm going to take that fish and I'm going to throw it out to the gulls." And just as she said that, I was going by the window. I was coming in. He said, "Never mind, the gulls coming in."
Big gulp.
But anyway, we had a beautiful relationship. Yeah.
I remember my mom saying to me once she met him and got to know him, she said, "Don't let him go."
Oh, okay.
Good advice, Mom, right?
He was okay.
He passed the test. Yeah. And what about your friends? I mean, did you find your friendships changed over time?
Not really.
I think what happened, like over time, you mean since, from the time we got married till.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure they have, but
Yeah.
when you think back when you first got married, and then, did the fact of marriage change your relationship with your friends?
No.
We included them in. If it was a single guy who was coming with us, or my girlfriend coming with us, we were okay with it, you know. Yeah.
Her brother went everywhere with us. We
You couldn't shake
no, we were allowed to go anywhere on our own.
Remember he called me,
That was perfectly fine. We had a great time.
when he was working on our co-op, he called me one Friday night and he said, I'm not working the weekend. And I said, oh great, what are we going to do? He said, well, let's go down to a tubing festival down the valley. I'd always been wanting to go. And he said, do you want to go? I said, yeah, that sounds really good. And I started to laugh and he said, what's so funny? And I said, guess what Palmer's doing? This is my brother, he has since passed away. He said, what? I know, he said, I bet he's packing stuff. I said, he's got the tent, he's got the cooler. I even asked him, he was going with us.
It was just a foregone conclusion.
Right, he had everything packed.
But it goes back to what you asked earlier, and what we talked about earlier too, about like in a small community like this, you marry into the family, you marry into the community. You know, your friends are still the same friends.
Yes,
You know,
that's right.
it's the same people you grew up with, because it's just the way it is. So the fact that you got married doesn't change it a whole lot. I mean, some of the
His
dynamics,
aunts and uncles
obviously.
became mine became his, you know.
Yeah.
That's it.
You got to give up some girlfriends. But
You never lost a sense of humor. And you have to have a good sense of humor. Oh, gosh.
So when you were growing up in this small area, did you find that, you know, was there still kind of an unspoken kind of taboo that you didn't marry people from another religion? Was that still
we're
a
mixed
thing?
marriage.
You are.
we are,
But it's
and
interesting
there
that you
was.
call it a mixed marriage, because nowadays you probably wouldn't use that
No,
term,
but-
right?
Yeah.
That's the term. And so were my parents.
Okay,
But we had to get a dispensation from the bishop, from the archbishop, to marry.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there was in my case,
Oh, yeah.
in my case, like my parents were staunch Protestants, and like they still kind of old school as far as that went.
Yeah.
They didn't poo-poo it entirely, but they did,
His mother was
they would have probably
They did
preferred. I
change.
found myself a nice Protestant girl right off the bat, and
Yeah.
marched off into the sunset. But they were fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took a little adjustment, I guess, on their
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't always see that. I mean, you saw, you know, there's a certain point in time when you see more and more of it. But when you look back at the old marriage records and stuff, and my dad used to say there are very few people that cross the aisle. That's the
Yeah.
way-
Yeah.
Jump the fence.
Yeah, jump the fence.
Yeah.
But I suppose when you guys were younger, that was beginning to be less of a
It
concern.
was still a concern, but less.
It was still present though.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember Mum talking about the Anglican church you're in Irish at, and they were saying, you shouldn't go to that church. You shouldn't go to that church.
Should go in there.
You should not go in there and
Yeah.
mix up with these people.
Yeah.
But and that was Mum.
Right.
But after that, you know, we went in and we sang, and
Did whatever.
so we did.
Yeah. Was that your experience too, Gloria?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the previous generation, I think that was.
Yes,
Yeah, like
that's
my
right. The
mother's
previous
generation
generation was
was-
stricter.
I had a
Yeah,
hard time because she was married mixed marriage too.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that I have a brother that passed, he was 13 months older than me, and my sister next to me is 15 months younger. Mom had all three of us baptized together.
Okay.
Well, when she married Dad, they got married by the minister, and of course she couldn't baptize us in the Catholic Church. So they had to get married in the Catholic Church before they could and they were going to stay living here in a predominantly Catholic community.
Mhm.
So they decided they were going to bring us up Catholic.
Right.
So they had baptized all three of us together.
I was doing some historical research this summer, not quite off topic, but so Fanny Malzard, or Fanny Lenoir, who part of the Lenoir family, Catholic, good staunch Catholic family, originally from France, married Francis Lenoir, or Malzard, who was a Jerseyman, so he was Protestant. She had her first child, who sadly passed away when the child was very young, was baptized in Jersey, and they entered the church. And every child thereafter, they alternated. One would be Catholic, one would be Protestant, one would be Catholic, one would be Protestant, which I thought was an interesting compromise.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
That would be major at that time.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would be a
Yes.
major thing to do
Yes.
at that time.
Really
At that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Catholic Church discouraged you to be married to be married to
Outside the church.
Outside the church.
Yeah.
outside the church, yeah.
Well, the Anglicans certainly didn't encourage it.
No.
But I suppose the other stricture with the Catholic Church is that you kind of made a commitment to raise your children as.
As Catholics.
Yes,
Catholics.
Catholics.
Well, you didn't.
Yeah, actually, we have a story on that.
No, you go ahead.
When we were getting married, well, we were mixed marriage. So one of the things we had to do was we had to go and see the bishop,
Archbishop.
Archbishop, I don't know, some guy
Oh,
had
bishop.
high up there anyway. So we met with him at the glebe house that used to be the glebe house in West Ayrshire, and we went in, and this gentleman was there, very casual fellow, smoking a pipe, and very approachable. I was waiting for
Yeah.
himself, really. Anyway, went in, and that came up,
Nervous.
and I said, I really have a little bit of trouble with this about being told that I have to bring my children up in a certain in the Catholic religion.
Nothing was against Catholic religion, just
Like,
what
I
we
don't
told.
think you should be able to tell me about,
Yeah.
Right.
my kids. And he said, well, let's examine that. And he went and he found it someplace written down, and he said, what we're asking you is to, will you accept children from God and bring them up in a Christian manner? And I said, I can live with that. He said, well, that's
Exactly what it
that's
says.
what it says. He said, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So he was the big guy. So okay, great. We're back on
Back
track.
on
We're back on
track.
track. We're back on
Yeah.
track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's it, yeah.
But this whole religion thing, like as you're talking about it here, where was it frowned on to have different religions,
Faiths,
et cetera,
yeah.
et cetera. That whole thing is it's on a sliding scale now, and religion plays much, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, but a much lesser role than it used to. I mean, growing up here in this community, the priest had a lot of control. The church had a lot of control
Yeah.
over what was
they?
going on.
Yeah.
And that's sliding, for better or worse.
Mhm.
It is sliding, and so you're seeing a whole lot less emphasis on we gotta march up to the church and we gotta get married.
Right.
Then no, we don't have to do that, and it's not going to be frowned on, and we're not going to go burn in hell for the rest of our lives and that kind of thing. So, it's all sliding, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, I think you can agree, there's a whole lot less control or emphasis or concern, I guess.
Yes.
The priests now I find, are very approachable.
Yes.
They're very modern in their thinking,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
like everything else, it's evolving.
Yeah.
It's evolving.
Yeah.
Again, for better or worse, I'm not going to make any comments.
Yeah.
That's not my.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
But you've seen that as well.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
In what specific
It's
ways?
it's more like you said, it's being a Christian.
Yeah,
Living a
sure.
Christian life.
Yeah, you don't have to be.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a certain religion,
No.
but living a Christian life.
I'm all for the ecumenical services and stuff. I don't think anybody should be banned from any,
No.
No,
Mhm.
religion or any church or
God's children.
attending it. Yeah, we're all God's children.
Mhm.
And it's too bad that that's not recognized more in a whole lot of different areas. I mean, just look around the world.
oh my God,
And,
yes.
and the chaos that's being created on account of,
Obviously.
my religion is better than your religion, so therefore,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but anyway, that's a whole different discussion.
yeah,
There's number
Yeah.
10 for you.
Yeah, so yeah, we talk about religious warfare in
Yeah.
the 1600s, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
goes around, comes around.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, is there
but it had an influence on our marriage.
in
Yeah.
what way?
In a way, yes, it did.
Yeah,
Not extreme, but it was part of it.
in the sense of what, that you regarded marriage as a sacrament as well as a
Yes,
sort of
As a
civil arrangement?
that's right.
Is that
yes.
true of you
I'd
guys?
say so.
I would say so. I would say so. Back in when we got married, way back when we got married,
Yeah,
it was considered as it makes it official. It makes it
yeah,
okay.
but it's
You know,
it's a sacrament in the sense that it's something that receives the blessing of
Yeah.
church community, and it has a place in the.
And I still look at it as the church community is actually the community at large. You stand up in front of the community and you make
That's
your
right.
vows, and whether you're in this building or whatever, you're doing it in front of family, you're doing it in front of community, and that's the church community as far as the way I interpret it.
I always said when they were closing churches, and I was on different committees on that, they were closing churches, and I always said, it's not the building,
No.
Right,
it's the people.
Mhm.
yeah.
Exactly.
You can have all the buildings you want, but if you don't have the people,
Right.
you don't have church.
Oh, there's a lot of those buildings
That was like
empty.
us, when our daughter Alicia, the one I told you, special needs, I wanted her, she had been baptized, and I wanted her to make her first communion. But I didn't know what, she liked going to church, and I didn't know what her understanding would be of it, because she's nonverbal. So I mentioned it to our parish priest, and he said, yeah, he said, if you really want to do that, I can do it. He said, how about we do it either at the park, outside of your place, at your house, in the church,
Right.
whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So he said, go home and discuss it with Cameron and come back and tell me. So we decided we do it at church, for the simple reason that she understood. We knew that she understood that part, that she had to go in the building and be quiet because she was in God's house.
Okay.
Otherwise, she might have not, well, that's just a party, I can do what I want. And it's almost like she knew, because that day, the child would never keep anything on her head. My friend had bought her a little crown, and my mom had a veil, and I said, I'm just going to sew it on and see. She left it on the whole day.
Oh, wow.
We had to take it off her.
Yeah.
So I said, so she obviously understood it was the church, the building.
Yeah.
Right.
But like you said, it's just a building. But in that case, it
In
was,
that case,
it
Yeah,
was,
in that
yeah,
case,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
that's
special
good.
meaning for her.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's good.
That's it.
Yeah, well, the church does not have a big a role.
In the marriage.
Although it is interesting that we speak at the church, right? I mean, if you come from larger communities, you might talk about the synagogue or the mosque. Or,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, in which case an interfaith marriage means something
Yeah.
quite different for
A
some.
lot of younger people don't go to church anymore.
No.
So to get married in church doesn't have that same impact where when I was growing up, I could visualize being in church and stairs. Someday I'm going to be a bride walking down that aisle. My sister and I were talking about it.
Yeah.
Imagine walking down that aisle one day,
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
married.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah,
That's not in
it's
there.
something.
in their makeup anymore because they don't go.
Was there anything we haven't said about marriage back in the day or today that you want to say? You think? That we haven't said?
Not that I can think of.
Do you recommend it?
I do.
Highly, Gloria? What's
Yes.
great about marriage?
Let
What's
me
the
talk
best?
with Leonard, see what.
What's the best thing?
I had my best friend,
Yeah.
right? And you have a lover, but a lover changes as you progress, right?
Right.
So I have my best friend, I have my lover, and I have my partner in life, yeah. And I wouldn't change a thing.
That's important.
I wouldn't
No.
change a thing.
That's beautiful. Yeah, what about you, Leonard? What's the best thing?
The best thing is that it grows. Marriage, it's a process. It's a process which you nurture and you make it grow. It's like a garden. You see it coming out. And
So,
at first, like I mentioned, the hormones were going. After a while, as you age, that gone. But the
Well,
inner,
not completely gone.
not completely gone, but
Okay.
partially gone.
it's not the big.
Yeah, it's not the first thing in your mind,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And then it becomes the inner love.
Mm.
At first, at the very beginning, when you're courting, you almost wear a mask.
Huh.
She wants to see me like this, so therefore I'll be like this, right?
Right.
As time goes on, that mask starts coming off. And you reveal yourself, and you accept each other as you are. So, and the work that you put in through the years makes that love grow deeper. And that's where we're at.
And it's a relationship that you really can't have with somebody else, right?
No.
It's exclusive in
No,
that sense.
that's right.
Yeah.
I would have to say the same thing. I think you will reap what you sow. If you
Yeah.
put a lot into it, you're going to get a lot back.
Leonard's analogy of the mask,
Yeah.
where, you know, and it is true.
Oh, yeah, you put
you
best
try to put
foot
your best face forward,
Sure.
but eventually that mask starts to get a little thin and the real you starts to shine through. And hopefully the real you is what your partner was hoping for or expecting
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a sliding scale. There's a sliding scale there between, you know, when you pick your partner or you pick to choose the person you're going to get married to, it's a combination of luck and if it's going to last, hard work. And if you're lucky, it's less hard work. If you're not so lucky, then you're going to have to work a little harder at it, and you got to be ready to do that. And respect.
Respect and acceptance.
Yep.
I would say if you don't have respect and trust,
No.
you're not getting
No.
anywhere.
Then you might as well give it up and
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
You have to tell yourself that nobody's perfect,
Oh, yeah.
and therefore, you know, you have to accept. Sometimes you have to say, "I'm sorry, and I was wrong," and that goes for both the partners, right? And that makes it that's part of the work. That's part of the work.
Cameron's favorite thing, let's agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's great.
Or we could finish off by a famous quote by a famous man, Kenny Rogers. You gotta know when to hold him. You gotta know when to walk away and when to run.
One to run.
One component this way we spoke up is having fun and humor. I think we have a lot of humor in our relationship.
Yeah, but that is, yeah.
Between us, we do. We both have the same sense of humor, and there's not a day that we don't find something that we're laughing about.
Yeah.
I
And what
think I
is,
agree with that. I think that's the key. That's
What
one
is
of
it
the
about
keys.
that?
Well, that
You need
shows
that.
you enjoy each other's company, so you're gonna find
Yeah.
something to
Yeah.
That's right.
smile about.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
You have, you know, when you first get married, he tells you jokes and you say, yeah, okay.
Yeah. You roll your eyes just a little bit.
And now he's telling me jokes and I say, oh my God, that's
Yeah, we share a lot of jokes or something. He finds out he can't wait to show them to me. Sometimes they're about himself, sometimes they're about me.
Yeah.
yeah.
But they're cute.
And you can learn to laugh at each other.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just-
And if you
And
learn to
yeah.
laugh at yourself, then
Yes.
by golly, you know what? That's good.
You got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That'll laugh at each
Well,
other.
that's an acceptance of imperfection.
Yeah.
Imperfection,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
no,
also
it-
finding what's
Yeah.
enjoyable and
She's got all kinds
surprising
of
about
those,
it.
I don't.
Okay, I'll agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Throw it back at you.
Well, listen, it's been a real pleasure for me to be part of this conversation. I thank you for letting me be part of this conversation. It's been a delight to really meet you all.
It's been a pleasure to
Good
be
to
here.
meet you,
It's been
too.
fun. Thank you.
And to see you guys again.
Yeah,
It's been a
yeah,
while.
yeah. So,
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
on that note, we're done.
Okay.
Very
Thank you
good.
very much. It was great.